Part 1 expanded, 1,300 words. The rain was falling softly on the roof of the small wooden cabin. The sound was steady and calming, like a slow heartbeat of nature. Inside, Ethan Varr sat at his workbench, fixing a small drone toy for his daughter, Lila. She had gone to bed early, leaving her father alone with the hum of tools and the faint crackle of a warm heater. Ethan was used to quiet nights. Since his wife, Ilara, had passed away 3 years ago, silence had become both his comfort and his challenge. He worked from home as an engineer, designing small machines for off-world colonies. His cabin was far from the city lights of New Cascadia, surrounded by trees and peace. That night felt like any other, until he heard the knock. It was a small, quick sound, not the firm knock of a human visitor, nor the beep of a delivery drone. It was hesitant, like someone wasn't sure they should be there. Ethan frowned, setting down his tools. He glanced at the clock, 11:42 p.m. Who could that be? He whispered to himself. He went to the door and peered through the small security window. At first he saw only rain and the reflection of his own face. Then faintly 2 small figures came into view. They were short, barely up to his chest, and stood very still, their shapes outlined by the light above the porch. He hesitated for a moment, then opened the door halfway.
"Can I help you?"
The figures stepped closer, and Ethan's breath caught in his throat. They weren't human. They looked like children, perhaps 10 years old if he had to guess, but their skin was a soft silver color that seemed to shimmer under the rain. Their eyes were large and bright, like polished gems, and faint lights moved beneath their skin, like tiny stars drifting in a sky. They wore simple gray suits, wet from the rain, and carried a small metallic cube that hummed faintly. One of them, the slightly taller one, tried to speak. The voice was high and musical but broken, like a song that didn't know its own rhythm.
"We need
help," it said slowly. Ethan blinked, unsure what to do. Every rule of Earth's Interstellar Contact Act told him to call authorities immediately, if he ever encountered off-world visitors. But they looked scared, tired, and lost. Not dangerous, just children far from home. He looked down the dark path behind them. No lights, no ships. No one else. "Come in," he said finally, opening the door wider. "You're both soaked." The twins stepped inside hesitantly. They looked around with wide eyes, taking in the warm cabin, the firelight, and the shelves full of books and tools. The smaller one gave a tiny sigh of relief. Ethan fetched them towels and let them sit by the heater. The taller one clutched the cube tightly while the smaller one rubbed their hands near the warmth. After a few moments, Ethan tried again. "My name's Ethan. You can tell me who you are when you're ready." The taller one looked up. "Rin," they said softly, tapping their chest. Then they pointed to the other, who smiled shyly. "Ral, Rin and Ral," Ethan repeated. "Okay, where are you from?" The two looked at each other as if unsure how to answer. Finally, Ral whispered, "Not from here. From far?" Ethan chuckled gently. "I figured." He offered them warm tea, herbal, no caffeine, and they sipped carefully, curious about the flavor. When they seemed calmer, Ethan asked, "Why did you come here?" Rin hesitated, then set the cube down on the table. "We ran away," they said, eyes full of quiet fear. "They wanted to keep us." "Who?" "Scientists," Ral said softly. "They said we were special." Ethan's mind raced. He had read reports about alien children found on research ships near Saturn's orbit. Rumors mostly about an unknown species discovered after a long-range probe returned with strange genetic readings. But no one had confirmed it publicly. "Wait," Ethan said slowly. "Did you escape from a ship?" Rin nodded. "It was called Aurora Station. We hid in a pod. It fell to your sky." Ethan exhaled, trying to keep his voice calm. "That's a long way to travel for 2 kids. How did you find me?" The twins exchanged a glance. Ral placed a small hand on the cube. "This helped," they said. The cube began to glow. A soft blue light filled the room, and Ethan instinctively took a step back. Then he froze because the cube spoke. The voice was gentle and familiar. "If you're hearing this, Ethan, it means the truth is out there and our children, human and otherwise, will need you." Ethan's heart stopped. He knew that voice. "Ilara?" he whispered. The cube shimmered, projecting a small holographic image above the table. It was her, his wife, smiling faintly, her eyes full of warmth. The recording flickered, but her message continued. "I don't have much time. My research, it wasn't just science. It was a bridge. Between species, between hearts. If these little ones found you, then what I feared has begun. Protect them, Ethan, trust them. They carry the truth, one the stars tried to hide. The light faded, leaving only the cube's faint hum. Ethan stood still, unable to speak. He sat down slowly, his hands trembling. How do you know her? He finally asked. Rin looked up. She helped our parents, they said. She told them about humans. She told them about you. Ethan swallowed hard. You mean Alara met your parents? Yes, Ral said quietly. Before she left, she said, if anything happens, find Ethan Var. He will understand. So when we escaped, we searched the star maps. We found your signal. The cube pulsed again, and a pattern of glowing lines appeared on its surface. Slowly, they joined into a web of light, forming a small constellation that hovered in the air above the table. Lila, who had woken up from the light, rubbed her eyes and stepped into the room. Dad, what's going on? Ethan turned, unsure what to say. Sweetheart, he said gently, these are... Yes, Rin and Ral smiled shyly at her. Lila stared in awe. They're beautiful, she whispered. Are they from space? Yes, Ethan said softly. They came a long way. The cube's light reflected in Lila's wide eyes. What's that? She asked, pointing at the hovering stars. Rin answered, it's a map. To the place where truth sleeps. Ethan frowned. Truth? The twins nodded together. Your wife found something, Ral explained. Something very old. Something about humans and us. About everyone. Ethan leaned closer to the cube, studying the constellation. It didn't match any pattern he knew. But one star, bright and blue, shone right where Saturn's orbit would be. His engineer's mind began to piece together possibilities. She wanted us to find this, he murmured. Yes, Rin said, because what she found can change everything. The rain outside grew heavier, but inside the cabin, time seemed to slow. Ethan felt a strange calm settle over him. For the first time in years, he felt Alara's presence, not as a memory, but as a direction. He looked at the twins. You're safe here, he said firmly. No one will take you away. We'll figure this out together. Rin and Ral smiled for the first time. Thank you, they said in unison. As the night deepened, the four of them, Ethan, Lila, Rin, and Ral, sat around the soft glow of the cube. The stars above its surface twinkled gently, like whispers of distant worlds waiting to be found. Ethan couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something far greater than himself. Outside, the storm passed quietly, and the first rays of dawn began to touch the trees. The galaxy felt closer than ever before, and somewhere beyond the stars, secrets were waiting. Secrets that could unite every living heart under the same endless sky. The morning sunlight spread softly across the cabin floor. The storm was gone and the air smelled fresh and new. Ethan Var stood by the table staring at the glowing cube that had changed his life overnight. Beside him sat Rin and Ral, the little alien twins who had arrived at his door, and his daughter Lila, who couldn't stop looking at them in wonder. Ethan had not slept. His mind was full of questions, about his late wife Alara, about the message she had left, and about what the cube really meant. He wanted to understand everything, but one thing was clear. The twins were in danger if anyone discovered them. He had promised to protect them, and he intended to keep that promise. Lila poured tea for everyone, her movements calm and careful. So, she said with curiosity, this map, it shows something important, right? Rin nodded. It shows where the truth began, they said softly. Our parents said it was something your wife was trying to protect. Ethan pulled the cube closer and watched as the small stars shifted and spun slowly above it. A soft blue light glowed across his face. If this is a map, he said, I can read it. I used to help Alara with her research before she passed away. Maybe she left a message only I could decode. The twins exchanged hopeful looks. She trusted you, Ral said. She said humans could do things others could not. Not because you are stronger, but because you care. That made Ethan smile a little. She always believed kindness was humanity's best invention. For the next few hours, Ethan worked with the cube. He connected it to his old terminal, carefully avoiding any network links that might alert the authorities. As he ran the data through the system, patterns began to appear. Waves of numbers, signals hidden inside the constellation itself. Finally, A shape formed on the screen, an ancient symbol that looked like a spiral of stars centered near Saturn. Ethan leaned closer. This isn't just a location. It's a code. Something is hidden near Saturn, maybe a station or a message. The cube flashed brighter and a new line of text appeared in the holographic air. It was in Alara's handwriting. To whoever finds this, humanity was not alone in its beginning. The truth lies where light and memory meet. Lila frowned thoughtfully. What does that mean? Ethan smiled softly. It means she found something incredible, something that connects us all. The twins looked at each other and whispered something in their own language. Then Rin turned to Ethan. We can take you there, they said. Our escape pod still works, but it's hidden. We landed it near the forest's edge. Ethan hesitated. You came all the way here from Saturn in a pod? Rin nodded. It was small, scary, but we had to find you. Ethan looked at Lila. What do you think, kiddo? Up for one more adventure? She grinned. If Mom wanted you to find something, then we have to finish it. So as the sun began to set again, they packed supplies and followed the twins through the forest. The trees shimmered with golden light and the sound of distant streams filled the air. Finally, they reached a small clearing where a silver pod lay half buried in the moss. Its surface glowed faintly as if waiting for them. Inside, the pod was surprisingly large, with smooth walls and gentle light. Rin pressed a few symbols and the engines began to hum softly. Ethan helped Lila into a seat and checked the systems, impressed by how advanced they were. This technology, he murmured, is years ahead of ours. Ral smiled proudly. Our people love to build things that last. As the pod lifted from the ground, the cabin and forest shrank beneath them. The earth curved beautifully below, wrapped in clouds and blue light. Lila pressed her face to the window. It's so beautiful, she whispered. Ethan felt a deep emotion rise inside him. It always is, he said quietly. We just forget to look. Hours later, the pod entered Saturn's orbit. The planet filled the view, golden rings shining like ribbons of glass. But what caught Ethan's eye was something else. A faint glow behind the outermost ring hidden in the shadow. That's it, he said softly. That's where the map leads. The pod approached slowly, and a massive structure came into view, a floating crystal sphere surrounded by lights. It looked ancient and peaceful, not built for war but for wonder. Symbols covered its surface, glowing softly in many colors. As they landed inside a chamber, the cube in Rin's hands began to glow brighter. It knows this place, Rin said. It's home. Ethan stepped forward carefully. In the center of the chamber stood a tall pillar of light. When he placed the cube near it, the pillar responded, projecting a wide image of stars and planets. And then, Alara's voice filled the air again. If you are seeing this, it means the children have found you, Ethan. What you see here is the truth I discovered. The story of all of us. Images filled the air, countless worlds, each with life. Humans, aliens, and forms of being that shimmered like energy or mist. Alara's voice continued, gentle but strong. Long ago, before time was counted, an ancient race spread life across the galaxy. They carried the same spark, one shared design, one hope. Every world, every species carries a piece of it. Humanity was meant to remind them of what they once were, curious, kind, and brave. Ethan stared in awe. So, we're all connected? Ral nodded, eyes bright. Yes, our people and yours, and we are family. Not by blood, but by the light inside us. Alara's voice grew softer. If they try to hide this truth, remember, no wall or law can silence compassion. It is the strongest force in the universe. The image faded, leaving a gentle glow behind. The twins turned to Ethan, their faces filled with calm. Now you know why we came, Rin said. Our worlds forgot the light. They forgot kindness. But your wife remembered, and she wanted you to share it. Ethan looked down, his eyes warm with both sadness and hope. Then we'll make sure the whole galaxy knows. When they returned to the pod, Ethan sent the recorded message through every open channel he could reach. Not to governments or armies, but to ordinary people, travelers, and families across the stars. The message spread faster than anyone could stop it, and something amazing began to happen. In the days that followed, messages came back from across the galaxy. Beings from distant worlds began to speak to each other, not as strangers but as relatives rediscovering their shared story. Ships once used for defense opened their ports for trade. Scientists began to work together, And even those who had never trusted humans before started to see them not as invaders, but as reminders of what unity meant. Ethan, Lila, Rin, and Ral watched from their pod as news reports filled the channels. Everywhere, people were saying the same words. We are one. Back on Earth, when they landed, neighbors came out to see the strange ship and the glowing children. But instead of fear, there was wonder. People reached out to greet them. Rin smiled shyly and said, "Your world is beautiful." "So is yours," Lila replied. As night fell, the stars above the cabin seemed brighter than ever. Ethan stood quietly outside, looking up. He thought of Ilara, of her courage, her kindness, and her belief that love was stronger than fear. He whispered softly, "You did it. Ilara, you changed everything." Rin and Ral stood beside him, their silver eyes reflecting the starlight. "No," Rin said gently. "You did. You believed." Ethan smiled, wrapping an arm around Lila as they watched a dozen starships descending slowly through the sky. Not for war, not for conquest, but for reunion. And as the first of those ships touched down, the whole galaxy seemed to take a breath together, a breath of peace, of connection, of understanding. The twins' confession had truly shaken the stars, but in the best way possible. It reminded everyone everywhere that hearts, no matter their shape, color, or world, could still beat together in harmony. Under that vast and endless sky, humanity once again became what it was always meant to be.